opinion.
Introduce me.
Sometimes you have ideas and you're not quite sure why.
As you secure the bag.
Sometimes you meet people and realize there's probably a reason why you stayed in touch.
Just listen.
Sometimes all the pieces just come together by themselves.
I'm Jimmy Moyaha.
And I'm Simon Brown.
Welcome to Insider Exchange.
Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Insider Exchange. And before we get this episode underway, I must start this episode, unfortunately, with an apology. We owe everybody our deepest apologies. Myself and Simon went missing for a week and everybody freaked out. Our DMs were flooded. Everybody wanted to know where we went. We'll get into that in a second. We do apologize for not explaining ourselves. In future, we will make sure we don't leave you abandoned. But that being said, we're going to be going straight into market matters this week because there is just so much to cover. We're going to be looking at the latest Truth Social post from Donald J. Trump. We're going to be taking a look at the month of January in terms of trading and everything that happened there. Gold prices reaching new highs. We're going to be looking at the NFP numbers expected this week. We're going to be looking at the interest rate decision from last week. And helping us to take a look at all of these market matters in studio, joining us is Manager for Trading Services and good friend of ours, Sean Dendere, because Trive has graciously agreed to be our partner on this particular episode. We thank them for all the work that they continue to do with us. And Sean, welcome back. It's nice to have you back in studio. I think this is the first time we've had you back for this year. How was your break?
I mean, not really a break. I worked majority of December, but actually ended up going to Zim as well for a little bit because I'm originally from Zim, for those that don't know. So that was really, really cool, but back in the grind.
Someone had to work.
That's it. Someone had to do it. The grind never stops. And apparently we had to tell people last week that we weren't going to be those people. Sai was in Cape Town. I was globe-trotting in Cyprus and Dubai. Sai, how was Cape Town?
I love Cape Town. Just love it. It's got beach. You know what I didn't see for 12 days? Pothole. Promise.
I didn't see one either.
Swear.
I
not
won't
one.
lie. I didn't see one either. I did see an 8-lane highway in Dubai with a bunch of supercars, which is another conversation for another
No,
day.
lovely. My city, although the ticketing system is stuck in, but the mayor replied to me and explained why it's broken until June of next year. And love Cape Town. Went to see some live music. Offspring. Yo.
Oh, what it's
And-
like
and
to be
Green
a
Day,
celebrity. Huh? Oh, what it's like to... The mayor
Beautiful
replied
stuff.
to me.
Exactly. He's like, okay, we'll sort this out for you, Simon.
So for the record, the mayor of Cape Town follows me on the Twitters. He's now probably my most famous follower. It used to be Tito Mboweni.
I think you are my most famous follower.
Oh, good. Okay, that's awkward.
But yeah, I mean, we disappear for 1 week. We take a break, a little bit of a... It wasn't even a real break, guys. We leave for 1 week, and you guys bring back load shedding. Like,
There was that.
what happened?
No, guys, no. Let's
What
not blame them.
happened?
Let's not blame them. Let's not blame the people. Because it was one day, just to remind us
Just
that
a bit
it's
of
possible.
trauma.
Like, it's possible, but we're sorting it out.
Yeah, that was... I mean, when I saw that notification come through, I was like, this can't possibly... I mean, we supposedly had this problem fixed. And you'd think that would be the case, but clearly that, coupled with the latest statements by one POTUS, or the 47th President of the United States, have sent the Rand tumbling this morning because that Truth Social post,
Although the Rand is 15 cents better than its worst. So it went out to 1905 when I woke up at like 4:30, and now we're at 1890.
We were at 1850 before the weekend.
Okay.
No, but guys, let's not look at it in isolation, right? The dollar has been on an interesting rally, because you were speaking about the gold price earlier, you touched on it. What I find very interesting is that the dollar is strengthening while gold is also strengthening. So it's like, what's actually happening in the market? Because obviously normally they have that inverse relationship, and it's like, well, as a trader, like, what direction am I taking? It's quite a confusing
Yeah, I mean,
scenario
gold
that
closed
we're in.
all-time highs last week.
Yeah.
And the DXY, which is the dollar index, is sort of back at, and I'm going to have to zoom out a lot here, sort of, it was, 2022 levels. But it is, I mean, to your point, it's like this is weird. But in one sense, it's the fear, right? That's what the gold story is. And then the dollar is like, well, if they're going to be tariffing the heck out of everyone,
Yeah, I think that decoupling is largely driven by what's happening now politically. Because in the past, we could argue things like the stimulus package that went through for the US and all of that. But now you're seeing a very clear kind of movement from the things that the president is saying. I mean, the fact that you come into office, you sign a bunch of executive orders undoing your predecessor's work, and then saying we're going to do this, and impose tariffs on everybody. Canada's freaking out. Mexico's freaking out. I think the stance that Donald Trump is taking right now in the markets is something that's going to be one very clear message: is volatility galore.
Yeah,
Like
110%,
it's gonna be a rough 4 years if you're not prepared, right? So, and for me, what the scariest part is, you can go to sleep one day, nothing has happened. He takes to Truth Social, he puts out a post about South Africa's expropriation bill, which has nothing to do with Donald, is unrelated to America. He's got no interest in putting this out. You can literally see from that post that this is him saying, I will stoke any and all fires that I deem necessary, and we'll see what happens. And that's scary. I mean, I thought the first run of the president was, like, the first term was wild. He's trying to outdo himself.
No, but don't you think that it's a Hail Mary? He knows this technically his last term.
Correct.
He's going to do whatever he wants, whatever he thinks, and then he's just going to close the door and walk out.
But that's the scary part. That's what I'm saying, is imagine how much chaos someone can cause when they have political will. Imagine the chaos that can be caused by the president of supposedly the largest economy on the face of the earth.
And the
And
challenge
he's
is-
unchecked. Sorry, Simon, but he's unchecked.
And that's just it. So we always thought that there were guardrails, and the guardrails, and look, there will be court cases galore. Turns out the guardrails were mostly norms. In other words, you don't do that because it's not done. Well, it turns out, and I mean, even the Canada, Texas, Mexico, because of course there's the new NAFTA, and I forget what it's called. And there is, so you can't do tariffs against each other, except there's a carve out if there's a crisis. And he's got the crisis with Canada as illegal immigrants and fentanyl. They caught 24 pounds of fentanyl on that border last year. 24 pounds. But it's a carve out. And yes, so you can take it to the WTO, World Trade Organization, and all of that, and fight your way through, and Trump will be out of office before it's resolved.
The WTO, is that the organization he's still a part of? Or is that the organization... Oh, no, the WHO is the one that pulled out of.
Yeah, you
See,
Yeah, he left and the Paris Agreement. So that's where,
but those kinds of actions, making it very clear that he as the president, whether it's America's stance or not, but he as the president does not care about what has been the historical relationship between a nation and anyone
about
else.
Americans, because I don't see, I mean, at times tough decisions have been made by leaders, and you know, I'm thinking Churchill in World War II and others. Okay. But they were, you could kind of see what the long-term benefit ultimately was. Yeah, I don't see how this benefits, except unless he really wants to annex Canada as the 51st state. But that is not going to happen unless literally he invades. I mean, sends
anyway.
Armed forces. I mean, I don't see an end game here. I don't see what, in the first term, he did crazy stuff, but you could see an end game. You could disagree with it. You could think he was going about it the wrong way, but you could see a thread kind of maybe bits. Now, all I see is...
I think the mask of Make America Great Again is kind of what's been put forward, is to say America first and everyone else in the world second, kind of thing, right? Which is all good and well to want to pursue that. But surely there's going to come a point in life where other leaders of other countries are going to say, listen, we're not going to do what you want us to do. We don't belong to you. We're each our own sovereign states. We each have our own political agendas. I think it's almost as if America and Donald Trump are trying to not only weaponize the dollar, but weaponize the American economy. Like in South Africa's case, oh no, we're going to suspend all of the aid that we send to you. You're weaponizing America's position to say you will now have to say yes to us or else we'll take this away. And it's going to take some serious leadership from a country like South Africa or other countries to stand up and say, well, then take the trade away. And that takes away effectively the power that the US has in that conversation.
Yeah.
But do we have the political will to do so?
I wanted to just touch on that quickly, is that this might sound controversial, There is, in my opinion, right, it's an opportunity for the rest of the world, right, to try find a way to be less reliant
On
the
America,
US,
absolutely.
because clearly, I mean, you got a new president in, and we can see that,
And he's not
running-
interested in relations.
no care of relations, no relations with him and his boys, Elon and the boys. Those are the relations that are important, right? But for us, it's like, okay, cool. You're taking out the funding away. You are putting tariffs on your neighboring countries, which actually Mexico and Canada are the United States' biggest trade partners. Yeah. And people don't, I mean, I don't know if he knows that or he's read that somewhere, but it is an opportunity. It's going to be tough. And like you said, it does require a lot of political will, but also requires the will of the people, like us on the ground, you know, coming up with new ideas, implementing new things to ensure that our economies are actually being stimulated independently, and obviously with all the other trade partners that we have that we're actually happy with.
I think you're right. And, you know, let's take it to USAID, which is, I mean, and disclosure, my sister has at times done contracts, work with, involved in USAID, mostly in the HIV/AIDS space. And yeah, we are very reliable on it. Our HIV program in South Africa is I think it's 17% of their funding comes from the US. Being less reliable on the US is undoubtedly a good thing for a couple of reasons. One, because one day the US will fade. Two, because one day the US will be ruled, happening already, megalomaniac in charge. But, you know, it's business 101, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. The world has largely put their eggs in an American basket. And the world is suddenly realizing, well, that's been great for, I don't know, 50, however many 100 years, not so great now. Change, however, is not fun. It's going to be painful in the process. But there is a place where we come out to the other point, and I agree with you 100%, less reliant on America, and that's not a bad thing for America or the rest of the world. It's just going to be,
Tough, very tough. It's going to be really tough.
So this conversation brings me to the next one. The gold price that you mentioned hitting all-time highs last week. Is that the natural response to say, yes, all of this is happening, and maybe we didn't flock to gold as a safe haven in the past, but now with the increased weaponization of the dollar, maybe we should be going back to gold. Because over the last couple of, I'd say 18 months perhaps, you and I have been watching the markets, Sai and I have been talking about it as well. You've seen that gold, the dollar has been the safe haven kind of alternative, purely because of the return you get on the dollar. Now, is it that Donald Trump is putting that return at risk? Is it that markets are saying, this might not be worth it?
Interesting question. I don't know. I think as human beings we always go back to default, right? And if we
Go
look
back
at
to what
gold-
we know kind of thing.
Exactly. So if we go historically, gold was the original safe haven. And in times of high volatility and massive uncertainty that can just be tweeted, right? I think gold is, going to be the safe haven. And it's going to lead to, sorry to interject, but to lead to us dumping the dollar, because obviously, like you said, it's being weaponized. So let me go to something that's not being...
You can't weaponize something you don't have absolute control over, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think so, because, you know, it's not crypto, right? What Bitcoin's down 10% since the tariffs. Although 10-year US Treasuries 4.55% is not shabby. I mean, if I take my ZAR, turn it into rands, get some rand weakness, some 4.5%, I just can't find any way to cleanly buy it. But it ultimately it comes back to now what we see in crises, and we saw it in 08, 09, we saw it in the pandemic sell-off. When stuff really hits the fan, everything is correlated one. I mean, it all just goes down. But over time, I mean, look what gold has done. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Suddenly it's like, gold, hey?
Interesting.
Speaking of markets correlating in one direction, right? Looking at what's happened in the past, I mean, the last 4 years haven't been easy on markets. And we finally get to a point where markets are saying, there's optimism. We're going to start to move up. We're going to start to move in the right direction. And Trump he is now the spanner in the works, so to speak. Do we then see markets like gold and other commodities just kind of doing their own thing and picking up their own steam? I'm asking this because I had a look at the PGM price on Friday when we closed out the month. Platinum for the entire month of January didn't even get to $1,000, and then suddenly we were above $1,000, closing out the month in positive territory. Is the market or the rest of the landscape just saying, we're going to keep trucking on? We understand that this level of crazy is just something we have to contend with, and we're taking it in our stride.
I think so. I mean, surely that's how we need to respond. I mean, I'm looking at our market today. So here's a fun fact. Over 1 year, gold's up 37%, NASDAQ S&P 23 ex-div. Over 3 year, gold's 56, and the other two, NASDAQ 49 and 37 to S&P. So gold's doing what it says on the sticker already. I mean, we'll see how the US opens, but I mean, our market's down 1.4. That's nasty. Make no mistake about it. Not the end of the world. The rand's, okay, it's lost some sense as we've been talking. 1897 as we talk. You know, this isn't a collapse. And we're just going to have to, as you say, kind of learn that this is the normal until 20 Jan 2029. Yeah.
That
It's a
sounds
long
so
time.
far
That's a
away.
long time.
There's a Twitter account you can follow which gives you in days, hours, minutes, and seconds how much longer Trump is in power.
I would lose my mind.
I blocked it.
I couldn't. I would lose my mind. Before we wrap up the segment, I want to take a look at some US news that's, I don't even know if it's going to be relevant to us. We've got NFP data coming out this week. We've put some emphasis on US data in the past and everything. I think that it's now safe to say that might just all go out the window at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the volatility that NFP tends to create for the market is already in the market as we're speaking, like right now in this moment. Like Simon mentioned, let's see what's going to happen when the US market opens. I think it's going to open in the red, in my opinion. I think most markets are going to be red for a while. Hopefully they turn around. But for as long as, you know, the president, Trump specifically, carries on his, let's call it, for the lack of a better term, tirade. And NFP is literally a small thing to consider. It's just a piece of data, which, once again, is, yes, it affects global markets, but it's just a number that is significant to the American economy. So let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the rand losing sense while we're talking.
But I like your logic there. And so I got two things I would put to it. One is that when we start focusing on NFP again, now we've moved on from Trump. If NFP comes on Thursday and we're like, well, no, there's this other chaos and we ignore it. When we start looking at economic data again, instead of tweets and truth or whatever
Truth Social, I think it's called.
yeah, then we know we've moved on. Also, the second order effects of this are, I mean, for example, the 10% tariff on gas might add, I think some economists were saying 20 cents to a gallon of gas. I mean, that's not going to change the world in Canada. These are longer term impacts that are going to play out in the weeks, months,
Exactly.
you know, much longer. Inflation, you know, is inflation going back to 3.5 or 4%? I don't know, but certainly not in February or March or April. It's going to be in August or September. So I think at some point, I don't know how long, we're going to start sort of ignoring the fiery orange one and the shouty tweets. And I think the trigger is when we start actually, hey, data point, and that becomes the story again. I don't know if it's this week or next month, but
Unknown.
But I like that logic. We can almost pin to that.
Everything's unknown, everything's uncertain. One thing that is very, very clear is that the orange Mussolini is very much in charge. And we're going to leave Market Matters on that note. Thanks so much, Sean, for joining us.
Thank you.
We
guys.
look forward to having you around. We're going to dive into our deep dive next. We're going to dive into our investor insights later in the show. They're going to be put out in the week. Remember, folks, like, subscribe, follow. We're live streaming every Monday. So if you've missed this live stream, it will be on our YouTube channel under the live tab. But until next time, that's been Market Matters.
Thank you.